A ceasefire was supposed to cool tensions. Instead, the US and Iran traded fresh strikes overnight. This escalation marks a significant turning point that could reshape the Middle East landscape and global oil markets. Here's what we know and what could happen next. Looking ahead, the most likely scenario is a continued cycle of retaliation, escalating tensions between the US and Iran unless a back channel or emergency ceasefire can be established. Recent military strikes have reignited a long-standing conflict rooted in historical grievances, sanctions, and regional power struggles. The U.S. has long viewed Iran's influence across the Middle East, particularly in Iraq, Syria, and Yemen, as a destabilizing threat. These nations have been battlegrounds for competing interests, complicating the geopolitical landscape. Should the strikes persist, the risks of U.S. casualties at military bases increase significantly. Moreover, the chances of direct attacks on critical Gulf infrastructure rise, which could severely disrupt oil shipping routes through the Strait of Hormuz. This strategic choke point is vital for global energy supplies, with approximately 20% of the world's oil passing through it daily. Energy markets are expected to remain volatile, with potential for further spikes in oil prices if traders assess that sustained supply flows are threatened. The diplomatic landscape is crucial in this context. Both sides must weigh the diminishing incentives to restart negotiations before the conflict hardens into a protracted regional war. The U.S. and Iran have a history of tumultuous relations, yet previous negotiations, such as the 2015 nuclear deal, demonstrated that dialogue can occur even amid tensions. As tensions rise, the key question remains: can diplomatic avenues be pursued to prevent a catastrophe, or will both nations spiral deeper into conflict? The window for meaningful negotiation is narrowing, and the international community must act decisively to encourage dialogue. Without intervention, the potential for a broader conflict looms large, threatening not only regional stability but also global economic security. Future discussions must prioritize de-escalation to avert a catastrophic scenario. The current escalation can be traced back to a series of provocations and retaliations between the U.S. and Iran, underscoring a broader pattern of military engagement that has unfolded over recent months. Following a series of U.S. airstrikes on Iranian targets, Iranian armed forces began attacking U.S. military infrastructure across the Gulf, signaling a shift from isolated punitive strikes to a more sustained military campaign. This last round of violence comes after 3 weeks of a tenuous ceasefire, which many analysts warned was already under significant pressure due to mutual distrust and a series of miscalculations. Historical context reveals a cyclical pattern. Localized clashes often expand into broader regional crises involving U.S. bases, Gulf partners, and energy choke points, all of which are within range of Iranian retaliation. The implications of this conflict extend beyond immediate military concerns. The region is home to vital oil shipping routes, and any disruption could have significant consequences for global energy markets. Iran's actions may be aimed at asserting its influence amid rising tensions, potentially drawing in allies and complicating U.S. strategies. The U.S. has consistently positioned itself as a stabilizing force, yet these recent developments challenge that narrative, raising questions about the effectiveness of American deterrence. Looking ahead, the potential for further escalation remains high. Diplomatic efforts may struggle to gain traction amid deep-seated animosities and strategic miscalculations. Both nations face internal pressures to respond decisively, which could lead to a cycle of violence that exacerbates regional instability. As the situation evolves, stakeholders must navigate the delicate balance of power in the Gulf, where any misstep could ignite a broader conflict. The coming weeks will be crucial in determining whether a more sustainable resolution can be achieved or if we are headed toward an intensified confrontation. The recent military escalation in the Middle East is alarming and carries significant implications for global stability. This is not merely another exchange of strikes. It presents a direct threat to U.S. forces stationed in the region and undermines the fragile stability of Gulf states. The Strait of Hormuz is a critical maritime choke point for oil shipping, with an estimated 20% of the world's oil passing through this narrow and strategic passage. Any conflict in this area poses a serious risk of disrupting oil supplies, potentially leading to widespread economic ramifications. In recent days, the markets have reacted sharply to the news of these military actions. Oil prices surged by over 5%, reflecting immediate concerns about supply disruptions. Simultaneously, U.S. stock indices have experienced significant declines as investors grapple with the potential for a broader conflict that could have far-reaching effects on the economy. These fluctuations underscore the interconnectedness of global markets and the vulnerability of economies to geopolitical tensions. The situation is exacerbated by the existing fragility of ceasefire agreements in the region. Long-standing hostilities have made diplomatic relations tenuous, and recent skirmishes have reignited fears of a full-scale war. The lack of a clear resolution increases the risk of further military escalation, which could spiral out of control. This uncertainty affects not only governments but also everyday citizens, who may soon face higher fuel costs and increased economic instability. The heightened tensions could embolden other regional actors, further complicating an already volatile situation. As nations assess their strategic interests, alliances may shift, leading to a reconfiguration of power dynamics in the region. Looking ahead, the potential for a wider conflict looms large, with significant implications for global energy markets and international relations. Policymakers must urgently explore diplomatic avenues to prevent further escalation. The stakes are high, and the outcomes of these tensions will shape the geopolitical landscape for years to come. With critical discussions among world leaders scheduled in the coming weeks, the international community is at a crossroads where decisive action could either pave the way for peace or plunge the region into deeper chaos. Late Wednesday night, July 26, 2026, the U.S. military launched a second consecutive night of airstrikes against Iranian military targets, marking a significant escalation in hostilities. The targeted strikes focused on Iran's southern coastal and eastern provinces, with Pentagon officials confirming the operations shortly after midnight. This military action underscores the rapid breakdown of diplomatic efforts aimed at de-escalation, which had been ongoing for weeks. The strikes come in the wake of tense negotiations that sought to stabilize the region and prevent further violence from erupting. In immediate retaliation, Iran fired missiles and drones at U.S. military bases in Kuwait and Bahrain, signaling a dangerous escalation of military confrontation. Reports revealed that Iranian forces also attacked U.S. military infrastructure in other neighboring Gulf states, further heightening tensions across the strategically vital Persian Gulf. These exchanges of fire unfolded against the backdrop of a fragile ceasefire agreement that had been in place for 3 weeks, brokered with the help of European allies. However, this ceasefire was already under significant strain due to ongoing skirmishes and incendiary rhetoric from both sides. The Trump administration's official declaration that the ceasefire was effectively over signals a new and perilous phase of hostilities that could lead to a broader conflict involving multiple nations. The rapid escalation in military action is particularly alarming as it reignites fears of a wider regional war, drawing in not only U.S. forces, but also Gulf allies now directly threatened by Iranian aggression. The impact of these developments could be profound, not just for U.S.-Iran relations, but for the entire Middle East. Escalating military actions threaten to destabilize already fragile governments in the region, potentially leading to humanitarian crises and mass displacement of civilians. Key international oil shipping routes could be jeopardized, causing a spike in global oil prices and economic instability. Looking ahead, the potential for further military confrontation looms large. Regional actors may feel compelled to take sides, complicating the geopolitical landscape. With diplomatic channels effectively closed, renewed dialogue is urgently needed to avert a broader conflict that could engulf the entire region. As tensions escalate between the U.S. and Iran, the possibility of a major conflict looms. Can diplomatic solutions still be pursued to avert disaster? Share your predictions in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for daily deep dives into the stories that matter.